Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Crossing the Line. We're going to take a look at the story from the Daily Mail about the referendum and the voice vote. Marsha Langdon, a key architect of the Voice to Parliament, details a plan to compensate Aboriginal people and return stolen land. This is what they're chasing with the voice. They don't want to have a voice or anything like that they're pretending it to be. They want money, they want land back, and this is their way to do it. The government will have a thumb firmly pressed on the back of our head, and we will be a minority in our own country. Now, I'm actually looking at benefiting from the voice going through because I'm technically Aboriginal. My dad's Aboriginal, so I identify as Aboriginal. I know I don't look it, but that's the way it cookie crumbles here in Australia. This is what the government has decided will be a voice for all of the people of Australia, all the Indigenous people like me and like Thomas Mayo and things like that. We're all going to be spoken for with this voice of Parliament that we do not vote in. We don't get to pick and choose who goes on it. Someone else does. We don't get to vote for it. So it's very undemocratic of them. A key architect of the Indigenous Voice to Parliament thinks Australia is obligated to return stolen cultural land and compensate First Nations people. Kind of like how they've already been given massive amounts of land in this country. And Ayers Rock's just gone back to them. The Cape of Queensland's gone back to them. And now Fraser Island, I believe, as well. Marsha Langdon has republished her Welcome to the Country handbook with the new details pertaining to the upcoming referendum. The academic said no vote would doom Aboriginal Australians to a permanent status as marginalised peoples and cited a growing impatience over the delays in righting and fundamental justice. Prominent anthropologist and geographer in the latest in the string of government advisors on the yes side of the referendum who have publicly discussed compensation of the land being returned to traditional owners after Thomas Mayo and Teela Reid made similar representations. Our predicament is known for the world over, and such countries have there been reckoning in the colonial past, she said. Reparations of stolen cultural heritage, development and aid programs, compensation, and other measures are part of the global human rights response to a legacy of imperialism and colonialism. That is what they want to do. They want you to pay for the sins of your ancestors. Pretending that Australia has no such obligations is a head-in-the-sand approach, politically immature and distinctively unhelpful in overcoming the problems that we have inherited. Professor Langdon continued, the impoverishment of former colonies with the centuries of extrication of human labour and the local resources all taken is now recognised as mass larceny. She recently noted that the referendum were to fail, many non-Indigenous Australians would not be able to look her in the eye as a result of her shame. She will not speak at conferences. She can't imagine there will be too many of her peers who would be willing to perform Welcome to the Country ceremonies. Oh no, what a shame. 2 years after her latest publishing, Welcome to the Country handbook, Professor Langdon released a new edition of Hardy Grant, edited with the new up-to-date details that progress the push to referendum. She said she is counting on her fellow Australians to vote yes, vowing that doing so will end the blame game and political theatre of white guilt. There is no white guilt here in Australia with anyone. Australians were dragged here, well, they were English, they were dragged here in balls and chains on terrible prisoner ships and then thrown on the bloody mainland and told to survive and eke out a living. They didn't want to come here. No one wanted to come here. They were forced to come here as slaves and prisoners, and then you're trying to make them feel guilty for what white people did to Aboriginals is insane. We all had to eat a shit sandwich when we got here. And Aboriginals weren't guilt-free. They started wars. They had wars with each other constantly. There weren't some beautiful, alien race of things that never hurt anyone or never did anything wrong, like a lot of Native Americans pretend that they are. They are massive warring tribes. They killed the white people. White people killed them. It was the way colonization has worked since dawn of time? I don't know. Aboriginals colonised Australia from pygmies, didn't they? Where's their reparations? I know a few short black people we can go and give some money to, if that'll make them feel better. The First Peoples of Australia have a genuine right and to take responsibility for our own futures by advising Parliament and the government on the best ways forward, she said. Professor Langdon hoped her book would help to deepen the public's understanding of the past to overcome the colonial burden. See, she's just sitting here spruiking her book trying to make more money off this race baiting. If the referendum fails, the readers of this book will inherit an unfinished business, she said. Should this happen, it will have dire consequences, not for my people, but for the nation. What? Like what? We're just going to go around and start locking up Aboriginal people now? It's not COVID. We can't do that unless it's COVID and they need to get the jab, and then we'll round them up and lock them up, remember? If the referendum failed, Professor Langdon quoted Mr. Mayo, the fellow member of the referendum working group. She said the view among most Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people is well expressed by Delegate Thomas Mayo. See, that's where they're wrong. Again, they've been wrong the whole time. Thomas Mayo does not speak for every single Aboriginal person in the country. He doesn't speak for every single Torres Strait Islander person in the country. I should know because I'm Aboriginal. He doesn't speak for me. He doesn't speak for the other thousands of Aboriginal tribes in Australia. He doesn't speak for every single mob in this country. Our daddy's even Aboriginal. He looks Filipino, for God's sakes. I mean, I don't look like an Aboriginal, but, you know, whatever. Over the years, Mr. Mayo has made controversial comments regarding reparations, rent, and land rights. He wants you to pay rent for the land you're living on. So if you go buy a house or you buy a property, you're already paying council rates, you're already paying land, anything to do with land, you're paying government, you're paying tax on just about every single thing we do. We are going to be paying another Aboriginal land rights or reparations or whatever they want to name it. They'll name it something like something nice, like this is the tax for kittens and koalas or something like that, to make it sound lovely. So you go, oh, that's lovely. I'm paying that tax to help them. But no, you're paying it because for people like him, people like Thomas Mayo will be pocketing every single cent of it. You know, the amount of money that goes to Aboriginal communities in this country already. If you've ever been to Nullarbor or Arnhem Land or Gove, somewhere like that, where it's where I worked, if you've been there, you see the Aboriginal community there gets millions and millions and millions of dollars paid to them by Rio Tinto. That all goes to one man. He does not give that out to every single Aboriginal person in his community. He's just as greedy as every single white person, as every other person. We're all human. It doesn't matter the colour of your skin or where you were born. We're all human. He doesn't give it out. If he's not going to give it out, what do you think Thomas Mayo is going to do with it? If we elect, well, we're not even electing them. If we vote yes on this referendum and they elect themselves, it'll be Thomas Mayo and people like this woman here, whatever her friggin' name is. They are going to be sitting on the board and they are going to be the ones dictating what we do in this country. You will not be able to do a thing unless you pay these people money to do it. We're already seeing it happen in WA where they had a tree planting and revegetation program. It was a $9-10 million program. It was stopped dead in its tracks because a local Aboriginal corporation wanted $2.5 million from them to plant trees. $2.5 million. That's a bribe. That's stealing money from them. They shut down the program. They held off. They couldn't do it because they were facing a $2.5 million fine or bribe from this Aboriginal corporation. They didn't know what to do. They've since fired the man who wanted that $2.5 million, rightfully so, because it jeopardized people voting yes. He says, oh, wait a minute. Why are they demanding $2.5 million? With planting trees, for Christ's sakes. This is what they are going to do. If you want to dig a hole, just like in WA, if you disturb more than 50 centimetres of earth, you have to get an Aboriginal representative from the local tribe or local mob to come out, and they're going to charge you minimum $160 an hour to get a permit to do anything on your own property. Do you think massive companies and like Rio Tinto or the government or other things like that will be paying that money? No. That'll be for you and me. That'll be for us. That'll be for people who put in a fence post, put in a mailbox, put in a fruit tree or something like that in your backyard, dig a vegetable garden, you name it, whatever it is. And people don't understand. They think that's hyperbolic. It is not. They're already doing that in Western Australia. It is already signed off on. We are doing that now. It is already happening without the voice. If the voice goes through, that will explode exponentially. You will not be able to leave your home. You will not be able to buy a home unless you pay rent to the Aboriginal mob that apparently owns the land or is culturally heritage land there. You will not be allowed to do anything. They're just going to tax the absolute shit out of us anyway. But now you are going to have to pay a land rights tax or reparations to people that haven't had anything bad done to them. You certainly didn't do anything to them. The First Peoples of Australia have a genuine right to take responsibility for our own futures by advising Parliament and the government of the best ways forward, he said. Professor Langdon hoped her book would help deepen the public's understanding of the past to help them overcome colonial burden. If the referendum fails, the reader of this book will inherit an unfinished business, she said. Should this happen, it will have dire consequences, not for my people, but for the nation. Professor Langdon quoted Mr. Mayo, a fellow member of the referendum working group. She said, the view among most Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people is well expressed by Delegate Thomas Mayo. No, it is not. You do not speak for us. You do not speak for anyone but yourself. A series of tweets dating back to 2018 revealed that he sought an eventual treaty that would see land handed back to the First Nations people. The vision of the Voice to Parliament appears to directly contradict Prime Minister Anthony Albanese's hope for the modest concession to assist the nation's most vulnerable. He listed all the things we imagined we demand the voice, including reparations, land back, abolishing harmful colonial institutions. What is a harmful colonial institution? I'd like to know. Mr. Mayo said a guaranteed represented body was needed to properly pursue the rent that is owed and an abolishment of systems that harm us. Pursue the rent that is owed. A constitutionally enshrined voice is important to establish the use of the truth in sport treaty negotiations. Mr. Mayo has since told Daily Mail Australia he is now of the understanding a voice will focus on practical issues that matter to Indigenous communities, such as better employment outcomes and housing. Better employment outcomes and housing. What's that mean? They don't even tell you what any of this means. They just say something and they go, "Oh, it's just vote for it, because if you vote for it, you're not racist. You know, don't be racist. You got to vote for it." Tila Reid, a lawyer, Wiradjuri woman and public speaker, also once described a proposal to change the constitution as a journey with all Australians to demolish the systems that continue to oppress us. Mr. Reid, who sits on the government's Voice to Parliament referendum engagement group, says she is not radical or despite her views. Ms. Reid said she is concerned by the conservatism of her profession and urged lawyers across Australia to support the Voice with a wide-ranging interview on YouTube. We also call for strong activism, and she likened the push for communism in the 1970s. Well, there you have it. She wants communism. Obviously, you have no fucking brain between your head and you haven't read a history book if you want communism. You're a lawyer. You should know better. Communism is not a good idea. A newly unearthed tweet in 2019, Ms. Reid said the Aboriginal people will build the nation. It is now time for you to pay rent. In January this year, Ms. Reid demanded every Aboriginal elder in New South Wales should be living rent-free. She said such an action was their bare minimum this state has to offer given the displacement and depossession. They want to take your homes and your land from you with the Voice to Parliament. They will take what is yours and give it to Aboriginal people. And those Aboriginal people look like you and me. I'm Aboriginal, my dad's Aboriginal, I'm half caste. Does that mean they're going to give me land? Does that mean are they going to take my land because I'm white and give it to an Aboriginal elder? They are going to take from you and give it to other people. That is cause for bloody war in the streets. If you've worked your entire life to build up what you have, you buy a home, you buy a car, you go and work every day, you grind every day to support your family and to build a life for yourself. For the government to just come in and take it from you and give it to someone else, that is fascism, that is communism. This is what these people want. She wants communism in Australia, race-based communism by the sounds of it. This is why they don't tell us anything about the Voice. They just say, "Oh, don't worry about it. We'll sort it out after we voted in." Do not vote yes to the Voice. You do not know what it is. We don't even know what it is. They won't tell us. We've got to read between the lines. This is what these people have said. They want you to pay land rights. They want you to pay rent. They want you to pay reparations. That's what it is. These people are after your shit. How can anyone want to vote yes? I don't know. What do you guys think anyway? What are you going to vote for? Let me know down in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.